Welcome to CNTV. I'm Brad Clonch along with Quin Tran. The Chickasaw Nation continues to focus on the health and wellness of Chickasaws and the community.
Health officials encourage testing for the coronavirus. The Chickasaw Nation has 4 drive-through test centers located in Tishomingo, Ada, Ardmore, and Purcell. Here's what to expect.
We've developed it to be touchless, so we don't touch you and you don't touch us, so it keeps us safe with social distancing. The whole process takes about 5 to 10 minutes. It's not incredibly fun to have somebody swab your nose, but I will tell you, it's pretty painless and easy to do. It takes just a few seconds to collect that specimen. Then we send that specimen into the lab, and our labs have been getting results back in between 2 and 4 days usually. So if you test positive, the very first thing to do is don't panic. The vast majority of patients are going to recover just fine. You may have a really bad cold, and so the things we normally do for colds apply. If your symptoms start to worsen, the one thing we do know about this virus is that in some patients it can act very rapidly, and people can be fine 1 minute and then just deteriorate over a period of hours where they're having a very difficult time breathing.
Doctors say to seek medical attention immediately if you have difficulty breathing.
The test centers are open to everyone. Call this hotline number for more information. Emotional well-being is a concern during the pandemic. Mental health professionals with the Chickasaw Nation have had more than 2,100 virtual visits with people over a 5-week period. We spoke with Dr. Shannon Dial about that and a new federal grant dedicated to mental wellness.
And it is just astounding because that is not too far from the full capacity that we operate in with face-to-face visits. And so we have just received a great response from both those providing the services in Department of Family Services, but those receiving the services, they love it. It is just personalized in their own home, a private connection. They don't have to go anywhere. Nobody has to know that they're receiving services. And so even though we unfortunately have had to do this, it actually has taught us things that I don't think we would have ever learned otherwise.
There's an obvious need, and that's why grants and program expansion is necessary.
Doing a grant application in the midst of a pandemic and stabilizing all these virtual visits, it was a large task, but we knew that in the Chickasaw Nation, we had the support and of anybody the chance to be able to write that during this time and try to get some assistance for our teams. And so a small group of us applied for an emergency COVID response mental health stipend or supplement grant. And we were notified recently that we were funded. And so that's new training and things that will benefit those we serve during this time. It's a specific focus on healthcare workers. It's an allowance to spend money on equipment to better serve people through virtual visits, and also the opportunity to virtually engage in some evidence-based practice that are some new ways of intervening with those we serve. That's kind of cutting edge. And so we are grateful just to have that little bump during this time and a little support, because there were a lot of unexpected costs with having to move everybody virtual so quickly.
What are some ways that we can help our mental health during this time?
Thank you for asking that. And it is a question that we've gotten quite a bit. And I first want to give the caveat and say that, if you put 5 people, 3 people, 10 people in a room and you ask them about their COVID pandemic experience, you would get probably a vast array of answers. And that might vary from it's been extremely stressful, I'm worried about my family, my future, etc., all the way to life hasn't changed much. And so I think maybe recommending something for everybody is at times difficult because everybody's at a varied place along the continuum. But I do know in talking with people and working with others during this time, and for myself, that the thing that has mattered the most to me is responding to others' attempts to reach out and choosing to reach out myself, even when stress or anxiety makes us want to kind of pull away. The importance of engagement with those in your home and outside of your home is equally important right now. In this time, there are so many opportunities to access mental health services or just a check-in. And before, you may not have been somebody that ever thought you needed it. And the hustle and bustle of life has been a good cover-up for not checking in with yourself. And one thing this pandemic has provided us is time. And I think it behooves all of us to own that we can all benefit from mental wellness check-ins and a talk with somebody that just hears us out or lets us vent or helps us identify any areas of concern that we may have been ignoring in the hustle and bustle of life. So in this time of a slowed down pace and slowed down life, with so many organizations like ours offering mental health services and doctor's visits virtually, it is just such a great time to take us up on that and meet one-on-one just like this, talking with a licensed mental health professional and just making sure that you're covering all the bases and that you haven't developed any behaviors or concerns during this time of quarantine that are going to exacerbate either your physical or mental health problems and might affect, your family or returning to work. And so use this time wisely and don't be afraid to reach out. And the Chickasaw Nation has a robust amount of mental health services. Most we can get you in within a day or two at this time. And it's very simple. And we would love to help you. So please reach out.
Telehealth has been a great tool during this time. Visit Chickasaw.net to learn more about the programs and services that the Chickasaw Nation offers citizens and employees.
Virtual visits are also being used in other venues like traveling exhibits at museums. One of them is Visual Voices featuring Chickasaw artists.
Everyone has gone to a virtual platform to tell their museum stories, their exhibition stories, their artist stories, their artwork. So that is where we're shifting. We've started artist stories where the artists actually video themselves and they talk about their artwork. So they're giving not just an artist statement, but they're talking about processes. They're talking about the cultural significance of what they created for Visual Voices.
Visual Voices is a touring exhibit that showcases 57 pieces of artwork by 15 contemporary Chickasaw artists. It has been traveling the country since summer 2018. The exhibit is now on the campus of the University of North Carolina at Pembroke. Besides social media, you may also go to ChickasawArtist.com to learn more about Visual Voices, the talented artists, and their diverse works of art.
People may also go online now to access Chukma Chickasaw magazine. The spring 2020 issue is available in this special digital release. Enjoy reading about Chickasaw people and places and see beautiful photography. This web address on your screen will take you to the Chickasaw Nation site to access the magazine online. Chickasaw Stories is a treasured children's book because of the Chickasaw stories and the illustrations.
We leave you with a story titled Our Guardian, the Red-Headed Woodpecker.
It was at the time of the great flood that Abba Benili took pity on the red-headed woodpecker, for he watched as these birds flew higher and higher to avoid the rising waters. Finally, the waters nearly reached the sky, upon which the birds lit as their last hope. Soon, to their great relief, the flood ceased to rise and began to recede. While sitting on the sky, their tails projecting downward were drenched by the spray of the surging waters below. So the end of their tail feathers became forked and notched, their bodies speckled and splotched, and their voices rather harsh and croaky from exposure to the elements. However, their skill and ability to save them from the flood so delighted Abba Benili that he appointed them to be the guardian birds for the Chickasaw. They frequently made appearances in the villages on the eve of ball play, And when the birds would twitter their most cheerful notes, it was in anticipation of victory for the home team, or so the Chickasaw believed. In time of war, they would also appear in the camps of the warriors to give them warning of approaching danger by peculiar chirping or twittering, and nervously flitting from place to place about the camp. In many ways, these birds proved their affection for the Chickasaw and still revered as favorites among the feathered friends of the Chickasaw, and considered a gift from the Great Spirit Abavanili.